Just let her know that. Actually, good morning, everybody. Welcome, shalom. A little late, apologies, but we are now finally learning Chassidus. A lot of joyous action here after davening, and we are now ready to study. So, how are we doing in the mimer? Give me some feedback, guys. Marty, Rob, give me some feedback in the mimer. How are we doing? What is this? Keep on moving. It's race to the finish.
I think we're a little. We get
tired.
We get detoured. We get. I think.
Let's keep focused on the mission.
Yeah, we got to get. I think we got to move forward.
Okay, fine. So let's wrap it up because we're on lesson on the third paragraph today. Okay. So what we're learning about today is wrapping it up. Really, we're finishing the mimer with the third chapter, the third and final chapter. Good morning, Elaine and Terry. We're learning about tefillin. It's amazing. You know, tonight we've got our gala. We've got our gala tonight, and we are writing a brand new Torah, a safer Torah for a safer world. Because when you write a Torah, you actually channel blessing to your life. That's what the prophecy in the book of Daniel says, right? It says, and it shall be on that day that all those that are inscribed in the scroll will be spared. That's exactly what it says. If you're inscribed in the scroll, you'll be spared, right? That's what's happening in this mimer. This mimer really is the explanation of that. Why does Torah do that? Because Torah is Hashem's wisdom. Hashem's wisdom channels into his emotions. His emotions is the origin of creation. And therefore, he awakens when we study Torah, when we engage in Torah. Good morning, David, Garrett, and Fran. It's amazing how what we're learning today is really the backdrop to the gala, right? A lot of people, have to say, we're confused. A lot of people were unclear. They're like, I know how to do a gala. You know, you pay a fee, you get your seat, you come. Here, there was a Torah. They were like, what?
Why is there a Torah?
How's there a Torah? What's it? Someone asked me yesterday if it's going to be a service. They thought it's going to be like some sort of a Kol Nidre kind of thing, you know? I was like, no. So, you know, they're having an aliyah. They've been called up. Basically, we're writing a Torah, folks. It's 613th mitzvah of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. Everyone's going to get a chance to assist the scribe in writing a letter in the Torah scroll. And what that is going to do is to channel blessing into your life, because you're not only learning Torah, you're actually doing Torah. It's an action. Remember, 3 garments of the soul, thought, speech, and action, right? So it's one thing to think Torah. It's one thing to speak Torah, but you can't actually do Torah. And that is, in my opinion, the uniqueness of the blessing of the prophecy of Daniel. That when you do Torah, the only way to do Torah is by writing one. There's no other way to act Torah. So that is what we're doing here in our event tonight. It's a very rare event to be able to write a Torah. It's an extraordinary mitzvah, and I'm grateful to all the people that are coming. And I'm sorry for the people that aren't. You know, I wish that they could. But you know what? By extension, a lot of people made donations and participated in the Torah without actually being there. And that's okay too, because you're still being inscribed in the scroll. It's going to be a magnificent event. So now what we're holding in the discourse is the very end, where at the end of the discourse, we go back to the opening medrash, which said that Rabbi Elazar declared, the nation of Israel said to the Holy One, blessed be he, master of the world. We want to labor in the study of Torah, but we lack the chance, the opportunity. We have to work to make a living. The Holy One, blessed be he, replied, fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin, and I will consider it as if you had labored in the Torah, in the study of Torah by day and by night. So now we have to understand, okay, we got Torah, but how does tefillin fit into this? How is tefillin a replacement for Torah? What's the connection? I mean, right? Where we're going to go with this is to say that tefillin sits on the head. It represents the brain. It is the meichin, seichel, it's intellect. The tefillin of the arm sits by the heart. It's right across the heart. That's the reason why it has to be on the weaker arm and the left arm, because it's got to be across on the heart. And it goes from the intellect down to the emotions, and then it flows down to your fingers and your feet, which is down to your action, just like the effect of Torah, which starts off in the highest of heights, intellect, down to emotion, and channels all the way down to this world. When you study Torah, remember, that's the message we say to the bar mitzvah boy. You're not a nobody. You're not a garnished. You're important. You are the focal point of creation. God mirrors your every move. When you study Torah, God studies Torah. When you study Torah, you're channeling energy into this world. Today, we're doing Torah. The only thing is that at the end of the discourse, the Rebbe Marash will tell us that it's nevertheless, even though it's similar, it's not the same. Tefillin is almost as good, but it is not equivalent to the power of Torah. And that's what it says in that medrash. The words are specific. And I will consider it as if you had labored in Torah study day and night. Only as if. It's not the same. It's not like, oh, don't worry about it. You can do this in exchange. It's not an exchange. It's only considered as if. But you're starting to realize the power of tefillin. Wow. I can lay tefillin for 3 minutes a day. Think about when you guys started laying tefillin. When I started laying tefillin in all of our spiritual journeys. Until you lay tefillin, you were like just a spectator. You were just a spectator in this world. But now you're a player. By laying tefillin, you're a player on the field. You guide the flow of the game. It's quite empowering to realize that. No, say you're a businessman, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you don't have time to study Torah all day. Okay, lay tefillin. The very least, which shows you the frustration of any Chabad rabbi when he meets the Jew and he says, no, you're a Jew. Why don't you lay tefillin with me? I don't know. I didn't do it. It gives me a headache. I'm allergic to leather. Seriously? You don't know what you know? I want to shake the guy and say, hello, wake up. I want to teach him the Maimer for 3 hours, but, we've got to bite our tongues. It's pretty frustrating being a Chabad rabbi sometimes. Okay, so let's go into the Maimer now. We're going to get a little bit spiritual, a little esoteric. I want to tell you, we're going to get a little bit esoteric here, so I'm just going to give you a preview on the esotericism. Esotericity? No, that's not a word. On the esotericy? Oh boy, these are all 3 words. One is worse than the next. So we're going to get a little esoteric by explaining that in the words of the Medrash, in the actual words of the Medrash, it says that Rabbi Elazar says the nation of Israel said to who? To the Holy One, blessed be He. Now that's a weird name to have. Can you imagine being the Holy One, blessed be He? Have you ever spoken to somebody, the Honorable? Have you ever addressed somebody as the Honorable? Yeah, but are you supposed to call them the Honorable? In first person? Yeah, Your Honor. Oh, fine. So it's interesting, but the Holy One, blessed be He. It's quite a long name. At least you would say to Him, Your Honor. What does this mean? You, the Holy One, blessed be He. So we're going to explain that too represents the chain of descent. Holy is abstract. Blessed is drawn. Let me explain what that means. The word Baruch, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, right? Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which I'm going to translate in my own words, okay? Hakadosh Baruch Hu means the separate one that we draw down here. That's my translation. Hakadosh means the separate one, the abstract one that we draw down here. Because remember the meaning of the word Baruch. The word Baruch means to extend. It comes from the Mishnah in Kilayim, which is the Mishnah that speaks about forbidden graftings in trees. It says over there, Hamavrich es hagefen, that's somebody that grafts the vine. Now, I'm no farmer, but from what I understand, we actually planted a farm in the back of our house. It's pretty cool. But you take a piece of branch and you put it onto another piece of branch and you tie it in the right way that it grows into each other, right? And now you've grafted. You extended the branch, right? You made almost the opposite of an amputation. You made a limb extension, right? So now what you've done is that you've extended. That word is mavrich, hamavrich es hagefen, one who is baruch the gefen. So baruch means to extend, to draw down. When we say a blessing, baruch atah havaya, Elokeinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we're saying baruch, invited, drawn down, extended. It's like, God, please. That's what we're saying. Baruch. Who? Atah, you. Who? Like, really? Havaya. We want infinity. Where should I go? Elokeinu. Come here, into nature. Melech haolam, you're the master of the whole world. Why? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, because you took this bread out of the earth. Right? That's the meaning of the blessing. Baruch. Welcome. You, Hashem. Which level of Hashem Havaya? Where Elokeinu? Melech haolam, the whole world. We're recognizing in the whole world because you brought the bread out of the earth. Yep. So back to Hashem's name, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The word Baruch means drawn down. The word Hakadosh, holy. What is the meaning of the word holy? How do you understand holy? Holy means like what's it called? Restricted access. staff only. Nobody's allowed behind this door. It's separate. Every other door is like, yeah, make yourself at home. But this door, holy. Holy means separate, distinct, or apart. Right? That's what's lofty or abstract. It's access denied. Right? HaKadosh, whenever you say Kadosh, we say, see, when we say in davening, Kadosh, 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 what do we mean by that? We're referring to the angels. As we're leading up to the Shema, we're referring to the way that the angels praise Hashem, and they say, even as high as the angels are, something happened to my screen, hold on, even as high as the angels are, nevertheless, they still say, Kadosh, 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 you are higher than we can imagine, you are higher than we can imagine, you are higher than we can imagine. That's what they're saying, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And that is supposed to inspire our meditation to realize, oh my God, OMG. If Hashem is higher than even the angels, whoa. And that's supposed to align us in terms of our davening, our meditation, to realize I'm not just talking to some, charismatic leader. I'm talking to the true master of the universe. So when we say now, Kadosh Baruch Hu, that God is the highest of the high, that's drawn down to the lowest of the low, we now understand the meaning of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is loosely translated as the Holy One, blessed be He, which to me makes no sense whatsoever. The Holy One, blessed be He. Right? I don't even know what that means. Honestly, I don't know what that means. But if you translate it as the highest of the high, who's drawn down to the lowest of the low, that's the meaning of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which now we in the context of the Maimon, we understand aligns perfectly with what is trying to happen. We can actually understand what the Jews were trying to do when they approached God in the first place to say, we wish we could study Torah all day and all night, but we don't have the time. Who are they talking to? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's saying, listen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the highest of the high, is reaching to the lowest of the low. We want to access you through Torah, but we can't. We don't have time. So he says, okay, do it through Torah. Right? That's what we're going to go over here, right? You see where this is going? It's getting a little more esoteric when we're going to say that Kadosh refers to the 6 attributes, the 6 emotions. Baruch refers to the 7th emotion. I mean, honestly, I don't want to sweat the small stuff here. I mean, the technical stuff, but I'm just giving you a little heads up where it's going. That, the 7 emotions, right? So 6 emotions feed into the 7th. The 7th emotion is a transparent one. It's one that receives. So the 7th emotion is considered like the lowest one. So when we speak about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we mean that the higher levels are pouring, are influencing down below them. That's basically what this is saying. Okay, all right. So page 40, paragraph 3. This explains the opening statement. Rabbi Elazar declared, the nation of Israel said to the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the world. We want to labor in the study of Torah, for through Torah study that will elicit God's intellectual attributes into His emotional attributes. This is a great and wondrous asset. But we lack the opportunity. Why is it a great asset? Because obviously we spoke about how it channels divinity into the world, right? That's what it is. But we lack the opportunity. The Holy One, blessed be He, replied, fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin, and I will consider it as if you had labored in Torah study day and night. That is, through performing the mitzvah of tefillin, they caused the Holy One, blessed be He, to don tefillin, as explained above. And what is it saying? God's tefillin. It says, we say that God is one. By God's tefillin, it says that who is like your nation Israel, one nation upon the earth. Who is like a nation Israel, one nation upon the earth, which means it draws God's attention, His intellect, and His emotion onto what? Onto the Jewish people on the earth. Focus, consciousness, awareness, right? To explain the reference to God in this statement, why we're referring to God as the Holy One, blessed be He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is the meaning of this? So this refers to Zah and Nukva Vatzilus, which is the 7 emotional attributes. The flow of the 7 emotional attributes from the 6 higher emotions down to the lower emotion. It's the flow of divinity from the highest of the high down to the lowest of the low. Zah is alluded to by the word Kadosh, while Baruch refers to Malchus. I'm not going to get technical. Incidentally, just one more paragraph of technicality. This is also how Moses knew the time on Mount Sinai. How did Moses know the time on Mount Sinai? Have you ever wondered this question? Have you ever been up at night? No. What time of day it was? Have you ever been up at night wondering how Moses knew what time it was on Mount Sinai? Never lost sleep over this. You know, there was a story about the Alter Rebbe that he was in jail.
Why do you have to know what time it is?
I'll tell you, there was a story about the Alter Rebbe that he was in jail, and they put him in solitary confinement in a room without a window for days at a time. They try to disorient him. They're trying to figure out who this guy is, if he was a charlatan, if he was for real. And they come in 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The government minister comes in, and the Alter Rebbe says to him, "Good afternoon." He says, "What are you saying? Good afternoon? It's the middle of the night. It's 4 o'clock in the morning right now." I mean, they was disoriented. And the Alter Rebbe said, "No, it's 2:05 in the afternoon in a few seconds." He's like, "How did you know? How did you know?" So the Alter Rebbe said, and I gave a class on this recently, the Alter Rebbe said that every 3.5 seconds, there's a different mutation of the name Havaya, different energy of Hashem's vitality in this world. Think about it as basically the perpetual creation. There's a new divine energy that is sustaining the world, and when you can see that, you know what time it is, right? So the Alter Rebbe knew what time it was. It's very, very interesting. He was in tune at that. Moses on the mountain had a different clock. Here's what he did. I guess it's the same concept, but these two words also correspond respectively to the Hasidic understanding of day and night. Therefore, on the mountain, when the angel said Kadosh, Moses on Mount Sinai knew that it was day. When they said Baruch, he knew that it was night. What does that mean? Kadosh means we said elevated, like abstract, removed, right? So when it's daytime, it represents the shining of God's light, right? The shining, the revelation of God's light. That's daytime. So that's why they said Kadosh when God is, revealed. Nighttime would be Baruch, which is when God restricts himself through the process called Tzimtzum to limit himself to the point that he can relate to us. Again, without getting too technical, this is how Moses did the time, because the different energies of Kadosh and Baruch represent. No, he was up in the mountain in the middle of the cloud. And what he was over there, he was with God. I don't know. I can't imagine what the amenities were up over there in the on top of the mountain. I don't know. Not my thing. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu was donning of tefillin. So now that we understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu means, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now the way I explained it, I'm going to go back to that HaKadosh Baruch Hu means that God is the way He's highest of the high. He is drawn down to the lowest of the low. When He lays tefillin, anthropomorphically speaking, it represents the idea of drawing the intellect into the emotions. Highest of the high to the lowest of the low, and refers to the essence of the intellect. I'm just going to conclude with one final point here. This is the reason why a child below 13 is not obligated to lay tefillin. Why does a child so young not lay tefillin? The reason is he's not called a man, and he possesses only a small degree of intellect. But at the age of 13, he becomes a man. Now remember, we say that the godly soul begins entering at the bris and finishes entering at the bar mitzvah. What is the godly soul? We've learned in Tanya. The godly soul is the 10 attributes, 3 intellectual, 7 emotional. Which means the intellectual has not finished entering him until he turns 13. Before he's 13, he has not got he's not a complete set of crayons. You know what I'm saying, right? He's missing some. And that's why he's not ready to lay tefillin, because what tefillin does is it arouses God's intellect. But you can't arouse God's intellect until you've got a full pack yourself. And that's the reason why the bar mitzvah a kid doesn't lay tefillin until his bar mitzvah. He's not called a man, and he possesses only a small degree of intellect, but at the age of 13, he becomes a man. At this point, through his act of putting on tefillin, he causes God. Well, they both, the 10 attributes come in simultaneous. That's why we call it immature. Immature, because his emotions are not complete. At this point, though, his act of putting on tefillin, through his act of putting on tefillin, he causes God to don tefillin as well, and to channel the divine. We'll wrap it up, God willing, maybe tomorrow, and that is a wrap. Any questions so far, anybody? No question? We're good so far? Fantastic, guys. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Shalom. Thank you for joining me here today. Be well.